WVUT Vincennes, a part of Vincennes University Broadcasting.
Good evening. In the news tonight, work continues on getting a clean bill of health for Knox County's voting precincts before the May 2nd primary elections. And another season of paving on US 41 around Vincennes is about to get ready underway.
In sports, Indiana's win over Michigan State Sunday marks the last home game the team will ever play with Mike Davis as its coach.
News Center 22 is next. If you plan on voting in Knox County's primary elections on May 2nd, make sure you know where to vote. At least a half a dozen voting precincts will move to different locations due to the Help America Vote Act. Among other things, the act requires polling sites be handicap accessible. To do that, some precincts have been moved. Knox County Clerk Brenda Hall says a final list of precincts should be published in mid-March. Hall says that out of the county's 36 precincts, Vincennes City 15 poses the biggest problem. That polling site has been located at the Wheatland Road Fire Station. However, a new site has been found due to access problems. The road construction season is fast approaching. The Indiana Department of Transportation will be paving northbound lanes of US 41 around Vincennes this year. Beginning March 9th or 10th, northbound US 41 between State Road 241 and the US 50 split will be closed. Northbound and southbound traffic will share the two southbound lanes between those 2 points. Meanwhile, the intersection of US 41 and Elkhorn Road will be closed for repairs at the same time. The intersection will reopen to the traffic around April 1st. US 41 between 241 and US 50 could be reopened to 4 lanes sometime in June. Illinois State Police are warning would-be speeders in construction zones to slow down or be ticketed by mail. Beginning in March, Illinois State Police will deploy vans with radar-activated cameras in work zones to capture pictures of speeders' faces and their license plates. Troopers will staff the vans but won't be pulling the cars over. Instead, violators will be sent tickets by certified mail with a $175 fine. Those found guilty a second time within a 2-year period face a $1,000 fine and the loss of their license for 90 days. In the first phase of the program, state police say 3 vans will be stationed around the state. A Freelandville teenager was critically injured Saturday morning in a 1-car accident on Brocksmith Road near State Road 67 in Bicknell. The Knox County Sheriff's Department says 17-year-old Justin Reel was traveling at an unsafe speed when his car left the road, struck an earth embankment and a utility pole. Reel was trapped in the vehicle. He was later flown to an Evansville hospital for treatment. A Vincennes man escaped serious injury Sunday afternoon when a man opened fire on him with a sawed-off shotgun. Vincennes police say 39-year-old Jeffrey Earl Bowers of 1212 North 3rd Street was shot in the area of North 3rd and Harrison Streets. Bowers was hit in his forehead by a few shotgun pellets. He was treated at Good Samaritan Hospital and released. 47-year-old Davey Washington of 1205 Perry Street is facing preliminary charges of felony battery and possessing of a sawed-off shotgun. Further details are not available and the shooting remains under investigation. 19 people have been arrested in Knox County so far this month for methamphetamine-related crimes. Knox County Criminal Justice Coordinator Bob Brody says that's the most meth arrests in 1 month in over a year. There were only 5 meth arrests in January. Meanwhile, Brody says causes of driving while intoxicated are on the rise. He says the county is averaging 1 DUI arrest per day. Knox County Sheriff's deputies arrested 2 men Friday night after finding a rolling meth lab on Brulette Road. 24-year-old Sean Curselis of Bicknell and 32-year-old David Wayne Hewlin of Vincennes are facing preliminary charges of manufacturing methamphetamine. The Sheriff's Department says Curselis is currently on parole for drug charges out of the state of Illinois, and they say Hewlin had previously been arrested for manufacturing meth. Both are being held in the Knox County Jail under $25,000 bond. Knox County Sheriff's deputies arrested a Princeton man Saturday night for purchasing more than 3 grams of a drug used to make methamphetamine within a 7-day period. 29-year-old Guillermo Salame was arrested after sheriff's deputies observed him and a female going into local pharmacies and purchasing the maximum amount of ephedrine pills. Salame is also charged with felony possession of marijuana and possession of methamphetamine. No information on the female is being released. Indiana State Police arrested a Vincennes woman Saturday night for driving drunk with a 12-year-old child in the car. 32-year-old Alfie Brock is charged with a DUI and neglect of the defendant. The child was Brock's stepdaughter and was released to the custody of her mother. The trial of a former Indiana State trooper who was accused of killing his wife and 2 children is expected to wrap up this week. David Cam left the force several months before the murder nearly 6 years ago. Another man, Charles Bonet, was convicted of the killings in a separate trial. Hoosiers would have a stronger right to use deadly force against intruders under a bill in the Indiana General Assembly. Specifically, the bill states that a person can use deadly force without first retreating if the person reasonably believes that force is necessary to prevent serious bodily injury to the person or the third person or the commission of a forcible felony. Time zones, tax reliefs, and leasing the Indiana Toll Road took up much of the hour-long Meet Your Legislators Forum Saturday at Vincennes University. Governor Daniels' Major Moves plan, which calls for leasing the Indiana Toll Road, is likely to pass the Republican-controlled legislature this year. Republicans like Representative Troy Woodruff of Vincennes say it's all about jobs. Many Democrats, including Representative Dave Crooks of Washington, says Indiana should be able to maintain control of the toll road and still realize the same profit that a foreign investment group would. The time zone debate continues, with some lawmakers calling for a statewide referendum or a winner-take-all approach to decide what one time zone the entire state should observe. Don't expect that to happen this year. And with major increases in property taxes paid in 2007, lawmakers are scrambling to find some type of tax relief. That's especially important with this year's being an election year. Several governors met with President Bush today to express worries about his budget will cut the strength of the National Guard, and more deadly violence in Iraq today. Stay with us.
Discover today's best authentic music on Austin City Limits.
Two of the governors who met privately today with President Bush say he offered a genuine olive branch about their concerns over the National Guard. They say Bush is willing to talk. State leaders are concerned that Bush's budget plans will cut the strength of the Guard and leave states less prepared to respond to emergencies at home. Many of the governors are also still irate over the chaotic startup of the new Medicare prescription drug program, which temporarily forced states to spend extra millions of dollars for those seniors whose coverage was switched. The governors are also pushing the White House for action to deal with a continued flood of immigrants pouring across America's borders. The White House says President Bush still intends to veto any congressional effort to block a port deal with the United Arab Emirates firm. Some senators say they still want to stop the takeover regardless of the outcome of a second review of security concerns. Iraqi police are reporting more deadly violence. 4 mortar rounds exploding in a Shiite neighborhood in Baghdad have killed 4 people and wounded 16. Police also say U.S. helicopters fired on 3 houses near Samarra and arrested 10 people, but it's not clear whether the raid is connected with last week's bombing of a landmark Shiite shrine. That bombing triggered the wave of reprisals that took scores of lives. Sunni Arabs now say they'll end their boycott of talks to form a new government if the rival Shiites return their mosques that were seized in the sectarian violence. Meanwhile, there is still no word on the fate of the kidnapped American journalist Jill Carroll. A midnight deadline reputedly set by her captors passed without any new communications. The Saudi government says dual raids by security forces have killed 5 militants suspected in an assault on a huge oil facility. The official Saudi press agency says a 6th suspect was captured. Guards last week foiled the suicide bombing when the attackers were killed outside the processing plant's gates. There are reports that Iran's nuclear chief has agreed in principle to let Russia host Iran's uranium enrichment program. Russian news reports, quote, "The two sides are saying that details still need to be worked out. Meetings will reportedly soon continue in Moscow." Meanwhile, a confidential report on Iran is being circulated today to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Diplomats say it details an Iranian project that the U.S. links to a possible nuclear weapons program. The UN Security Council is waiting for the report before taking action against Iran. A top justice official in Afghanistan says it'll take just an hour to retake a prison, but the government is trying to avoid bloodshed. Tanks and heavy guns surrounded Kabul's main prison, where rioting prisoners have taken control. Security forces are negotiating. 6 months after Hurricane Katrina, private charities have reportedly spent 2/3 of the $3 million collected for storm victims. A Bush administration coordinator, Don Powell, tells the Washington Post the spending clip raises crucial questions about how to pay for the long-term recovery. Meanwhile, a federal court hearing has been postponed as lawyers for the government and hurricane evacuees living on a cruise ship try to reach a deal. The evacuees are suing the government to block Wednesday's deadline for them to be off the ship. The suit says the Federal Emergency Management Agency hasn't offered alternative housing yet and can't guarantee it will do so by Wednesday. The TV actor who soared to fame on his cowboy characters in Gunsmoke and McCloud has died. His publicist says Dennis Weaver died of cancer at his home in Colorado, where he'd more recently become known for his environmental activism. Weaver was 81. Don Knotts is dead. The thin, high-voiced actor and best known as Deputy Barney Fife from the long-running Andy Griffith Show, Knotts has had more than 70 film and TV credits to his name. Sylvia Vargos takes a look back now at the life of this entertainment legend.
We got to nip it! Nip it in the bud!
Don Knotts created the lovable, high-strung deputy Barney Fife on classic 60s sitcom The Andy Griffith Show. This Mayberry maverick earned the actor 5 Emmy Awards.
Well, I guess you'd be happy, too, if you'd just been offered an important job.
I have had, over the years, I don't know how many hundreds of people say, guys come up and say, hey, we've got a Barney Fife down our station.
A native of West Virginia, Knotts was a decorated Army veteran for his service in World War II. Back home and a move to New York, the comedian found work in television. He first made a name for himself as the jittery guy on The Steve Allen Show.
We take this too.
When I started out in the business, I didn't have any originality. But I came across the Durbus character in the Steve Allen Show. I actually dreamed that character.
A slapstick movie career followed in 1958. The Griffith-Knotts pairing debuted in No Time for Sergeants. He starred in 1966 Mayberry-esque The Ghost and Mr. Chicken, and in 1967's madcap comedy The Reluctant Astronaut. On the small screen, Knotts became a series regular on Three's Company. Then in the late 80s, there was a reteaming of the famous TV duo in Matlock.
Me? No, I'm retired.
Well into his 70s, Knotts played the TV repairman in the fantasy Pleasantville. The next year, he published his autobiography, Barney Fife and Other Characters I Have Known. 2 marriages and 2 children added to his story. Knotts was a brilliant comedian and writer who spent a lifetime making people laugh. Sibila Vargas, CNN, Hollywood.
Still to come on News Center 22, Michael Nice has this evening's weather.
Coming up this week on 22 Magazine, Vincennes Mayor Terry Mooney stops by to talk about the state of the city. And Cynthia Regal and Brad Musgrave discuss the TRIO programs at Vincennes University. They're designed to identify disadvantaged students and prepare them for success in college. TRIO includes 2 educational talent search programs and Upward Bound. The next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on WVUT.
Well, Michael, it was another sunny day in the Wabash Valley.
That's right, Kristen. We had sunny skies and very warm temperatures today. A good day to get outside and enjoy the weather if you already haven't done that. Good evening, everybody. And as we take a look outside our tower cam, we can see partly cloudy skies covering Vincennes right now out at the airport. 56 degrees. Winds are south-southwest at 16 miles per hour. Humidity at 34%, and the barometric pressure is at just under 30 inches and falling. Similar conditions around our area. We can see that we have kind of a mixed bag across the Wabash Valley. Over in French Lick, they're at partly cloudy skies, 55 degrees. Down in Fort Branch, they're at sunny skies, 56 degrees. And up in Freelandville, cloudy skies, 56 degrees. And across the river in Noble, Illinois, they are at 55 and sunny. The reason for that, we have scattered clouds across much of our area. If we take a look at our national temperatures map, we can see that we have very warm temperatures across much of the southeast and southwest. Right now we have a string of 50s, 60s, and even some 70-degree weather right now across much of the south. Different story up north. We have a very defined cold front moving its way from the northern plains down into the Midwest. If we go on the northeast corridor, we can see in the very north up around Maine, single digits for them, so very cold in the northeast. Our weather, though, we can see the big story today out west. If we look at our surface map, we can see we have very scattered showers and even some snow showers out west. This is due we have a low pressure system along with a cold front centered over the Pacific Ocean. In front of that, all these rain showers coming across the Rocky Mountains and in through California. They are experiencing above 8,000 feet, almost 6 feet of snow, and in the lower portions, 10 inches of rain. I'm not kidding about that. Very, very heavy rain for much of the west coast. They're going to experience that all through the early part of this week. If we go out east, different story though. In the southeast, high pressure has dominated much of that area, bringing them clear skies and some warm temperatures. A nice change for them and the New Orleans residents enjoying some good weather for the end of Mardi Gras. We do have a frontal boundary system moving its way across the northern Indiana and Illinois, bringing them some colder temperatures. For us, though, we are under this high pressure system. That's going to continue to bring us some warm conditions and sunny skies. So if we take a look at our forecast for tonight, partly cloudy skies, low of 36 degrees. Tomorrow, partly cloudy skies, continuing high of 59 degrees, very warm for tomorrow. And tomorrow night, partly cloudy skies, low around 46 degrees. Your extended forecast, some clouds in the area, with a slight chance of rain on Wednesday, though. Cloudy skies, 66 the high, though. Thursday, cloudy skies, 51. And for Friday, the sun's starting to peek out with a high around 50. So, Kristen, let's look at your forecast.
Thank you, Michael. Still to come on News Center 22, IU's Mike Davis coaches last home game Sunday, and Matt Kinseth takes Sunday's Auto Club 500. Stay with us.
There is a place deep in the heart of the Pacific. A place where adventure is born. Jean-Michel Cousteau's Ocean Adventures.
Mike Davis's final home game was a success. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Amy Reef. Indiana posted a 78-71 win over 18th-ranked Michigan State Sunday in the Hoosiers' final home game under head coach Mike Davis, who's stepping down after the season. Robert Vaden scored 21 points and Marshall Strickland added 16, including the go-ahead basket after the Hoosiers blew a 16-point lead. The Spartans dropped to 19-9 despite Maurice Hager's 30 points. Indiana's 78-71 victory over Michigan State yesterday marks the last home game the team will ever play with Mike Davis as its coach. Davis received a prolonged ovation before the game, saying he was a little emotional about his IU farewell after 6 years with the team. But he said he's glad his resignation has helped the players relax and focus on playing well. Sophomore Robert Vaden led Indiana with 21 points, but after the game, he repeated his intention to transfer because of Davis's resignation. Sophomore DJ White indicated at first he might transfer also, but would not comment on it yesterday. The Hoosiers still have 2 games on the road at Purdue and Michigan before the start of the Big Ten tournament in Indianapolis on March 9th. The Illini are still in the hunt for a 3rd straight Big Ten championship. At Champaign on Saturday, Rich McBride scored 15 points as Illinois defeated Iowa 71-59. Illinois is in a 2nd place tie with the Hawkeyes, 1 game behind Ohio State. The team travels to Minnesota Tuesday to face the Gophers on senior night at Williams Arena. Minnesota is 14-11 and is coming off an 80-74 loss to Wisconsin. Duke is spending a 2nd consecutive week atop the Associated Press men's basketball poll after the Blue Devils ran their record to 27-1 with wins over Georgia Tech and Temple. Duke received 65 of 72 first-place votes, while 2nd-ranked Connecticut received 6. The Huskies climbed 2 spots with yesterday's 89-75 win over Villanova, which has dropped to 4th. 3rd-ranked Memphis claimed the remaining first-place vote. 5th-ranked Gonzaga followed by Texas, George Washington, Pittsburgh, Ohio State, and Illinois. Tennessee checks in at 11 ahead of Boston College, North Carolina, Washington, UCLA, West Virginia, and they're followed by Florida, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Georgetown. LSU, North Carolina State, Iowa, Nevada, and Michigan State round out the top 25. On tonight's college basketball schedule, 9th-ranked Pittsburgh visits number 14 West Virginia in a Big East battle. The Panthers and Mountaineers share 3rd in the conference at 10-4 as they try to earn one of the 4 first-round byes in the Big East tournament. 5th-ranked Gonzaga goes for its 38th consecutive home win when it hosts San Francisco, and number 22 Oklahoma takes on visiting Oklahoma State. Peja Stojakovic and Fred Jones both scored 22 points to help the Indiana Pacers beat the New Jersey Nets 101-91 Sunday. The win snapped the Pacers' 6-game road losing streak. Jason Kidd hit a 3-pointer and a driving scoop shot for New Jersey, making the score 85-80 with a little over 6 minutes left in the game. But Jones answered with a 3-pointer and Anthony Johnson hit a jumper. Jones came back to score again on a drive, giving Indiana a 92-80 advantage. The Nets did not get any closer than 7 points for the rest of the game. The Cleveland Cavaliers host the Detroit Pistons today in the 2nd of back-to-back games. The Cavs will try to end the Pistons' 5-game winning streak while stopping their own 3-game skid. The Pistons improved to 46-9 with yesterday's 90-78 win over the Cavaliers. All 6 of the NBA's division leaders are in action today. In addition to Detroit at Cleveland, the New Jersey Nets are in Atlanta, the Miami Heat host Toronto, and the Dallas Mavericks entertain Philadelphia. The Phoenix Suns visit Houston while the Denver Nuggets host Milwaukee. Matt Kenseth started in the 31st spot but finished 1st to win the Auto Club 500 at California Speedway. It was his 11th career NASCAR Nextel Cup victory, but 1st since winning at Bristol last August. Kenseth's win gives Roush Racing a sweep in the 3 weekend races at the track. Roush drivers also won the Truck Series and the Busch Series races. Daytona 500 winner Jimmy Johnson ran 2nd. It was his 11th fourth top 5 finish at the California track. Casey Kane ran 3rd, followed by Carl Edwards and Jeff Burton. Jeff Ogilvy is the first Australian to capture a World Golf Championship. Ogilvy held off Davis Love III 3-2 to win the match play event in California. He pulled away with an eagle birdie combination on the 21st and 20th holes in the 36-hole event. Ogilvy grabbed the lead with a 6-foot birdie on 16 and never trailed the rest of the way. Love conceded the match after missing a 25-foot birdie try from just off the 16th green. Ogilvy also set a tournament record by playing 129 holes, including 4 consecutive overtime matches at the start of the week. Kirk Triplett fired a final round 63 to win the Chrysler Classic by 1 shot over Jerry Kelly. Triplett surged up the leaderboard with 4 straight birdies on the track, 9 en route to a 22-under total. He shot 17 under over the final 2 rounds after barely making the cut. Duffy Waldorf had to settle for a third-place tie after carrying the lead into the final round. Waldorf, Heath Slocum, and Bubba Watson finished 19 under. Triplet's third PGA victory is worth $540,000. And Kristen, that's a look at sports.
Thank you, Amy. Still to come, is your computer being used for criminal activity? Daniel Seiberg reports on zombie computers when News Center 22 continues.
What kind of python are you?
Come on, you worm!
If you're a medical professional,
My brain hurts! It'll have to come out!
outstanding in your field,
Also a writer of humor and
and you enjoy fish slapping, then you may be a John Cleese. Find out on Monty Python's Personal Best.
Without your knowledge, your PC could be drafted into an army of zombie computers and possibly be used for criminal activity. Security experts say these networks of computers, called botnets, are a growing threat. Technology correspondent Daniel Seiberg tells us how it works.
We've all seen the movies, like this one, Resident Evil Apocalypse, an army of scary zombies seeking victims. Well, a similar concept is playing out in the online world, and your computer could be the next victim. Merrick First, a computing professor at Georgia Tech, has been studying the massive explosion of something called botnets, short for robot networks, zombie computers controlled by a remote master designed to make money via methods ranging from spam to extortion to fraud.
We've watched bot armies grow to be as large as 350,000 machines. Typical bot army sizes range between 10,000 machines and 100,000 machines.
And First says an army of just 5,000 computers can earn a bot master as much as $15,000 a month.
A bot master is a criminal who wants to use your computer as a resource in some way. So he or she buys software and has that software released onto the internet in a way that's self-propagating, either as a virus or a worm. It then finds its way onto your computer without your knowing about it.
Once your computer is unwittingly conscripted into this botnet army, the bot master can steal data or use your machine in a massive attack elsewhere. First showed us one example from Brazil, where a bot master was able to see exactly what a person was typing on their banking website, including the passwords and account info. And botnets are a global problem.
We're pretty sure it's at least 7% of the internet. Typical numbers range around 75 million to 100 million machines that are currently conscripted.
Law enforcement officials aren't sure how many generals are commanding all those bot armies, but around the world, authorities are trying to crack down on this rapidly growing crime.
We've actually had some success.
First says he helped the FBI track down a bot master from Turkey who spread the Mytob Zotob worm last year. And in California in November, federal prosecutors nabbed another culprit, 20-year-old Jeanson James Anchetta.
Based on the indictment and the conduct to which Mr. Anchetta has pled guilty, it is a fair inference that Mr. Anchetta had compromised over 700,000 computers.
Court documents show Anchetta made more than $60,000 from internet fraud and close to $100,000 from selling his bot armies to others. The zombie computers could be used in all sorts of nefarious schemes, from sending out spam, including emails that phish for users' private banking information, to extortion, threatening to shut down a website by inundating it with computer traffic unless the webmasters pay up. So how do you keep your computer from being drafted into someone's bot army? Well, you've heard it all before. Keep your antivirus software updated. Don't click on any suspicious email attachments, and try to remove any adware or spyware from your computer. Experts say botnets will be on the increase this year, but law enforcers say they'll be hot on the trail of the bot masters.
The truth is, these folks believe that the government is many, many steps behind them, and that is not the case.
Daniel Seiberg, CNN, Atlanta.
And that's all for this evening. For Michael Nice and Amy Reif, I'm Kristen Miller. Good night.